Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming here today. My name is Melissa Cerrone, and I'm the Grants and Programs Manager for the Office of Arts and Culture, City of Sacramento, and this is a brief introduction to the Creative Growth Fellowships. Today, we're going to go over the guidelines for the application, and we're going to follow this agenda. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Office of Arts and Culture, who we are. We'll talk about the program and the timeline for the program. I'll spend a little time on eligibility because I know that's a big question for most people. Talk about the use of the funds and any expectations that we have for people who are funded. We'll talk about how and when to apply. I will go over the documentation that you'll need to have on hand when you submit your application. We'll spend a little time on the review criteria because, again, I know that's another important factor. And although we try to make things as clear as possible, I know things sometimes can be a little difficult to interpret. So I want to clarify the review criteria as much as possible. And then we'll talk about some support systems for our applicants. So very quickly, who we are. We are the Office of Arts and Culture. The Office of Arts and Culture is a division of the Department of Convention and Cultural Services here in the city of Sacramento. And what we really try to do is our role is to support artists, cultural organizations, and the entire creative economy in the city. So this is one piece of it, really. Our goal here is to really support individual artists with this fellowship. So what is the Creative Growth Fellowship? The greatest part about it is that it's a little bit over $2 million, which are funds that are going to be paid directly to artists. This is the largest individual artist program that we have had here in the city. We intend to award 200 fellowships. Artists, instead of receiving a lump sum, will receive $850 per month for 12 months. This is an unrestricted stipend for artists who live in Sacramento, which means we're not going to monitor how you spend the money. And it's really to provide support for artists to pursue and advance their careers. This really is a fellowship for those who see themselves as professional artists and really want to advance their careers in whatever art form they're in. The timeline is really important. If you are watching this webinar today, you probably already know that the guidelines have been released. They were released on May 1st. And we spent a lot of time promoting the guidelines because we wanted people to read them, understand them, to ask questions, and to feel ready to apply. Because as you see, the application opens June 2nd, but it closes June 20th. So the application isn't open very long. It's not a long application to complete, and we do believe that if you get your materials prepared in advance and you're ready to go, the application should take you a very short time to complete. The review period is a little bit longer because we know that we're going to get, hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. So we want to have enough time to, first of all, review for eligibility and then have panels in place so that they can complete the reviews for the awards. And the funding period right now is scheduled to begin August 1st and go to July 30th of next year. If for any reason that we need to delay and it doesn't begin on August 1st, it's more likely going to begin on September 1st. So our goal is to have all the payments going out the first of the month to all 200 awardees. So eligibility, I know this is really important to everyone. There are just a few eligibility categories. One of the most important is that you must reside in the city of Sacramento. And that means Sacramento proper, so it's not the county, it's not the unincorporated areas, but you must show evidence that you live in the city. Excuse me, you need to be 18 years of age or older at the time of the application. And you need to work as an artist in one or more of the approved disciplines. And I'm going to go over the disciplines because we've had a lot of questions about that. The disciplines are, first of all, craft, which would include ceramics, embroidery, glass, jewelry, metalworking, and textiles. Design, and for our purposes, design would be either fashion or graphic design. Film, so actors, directors, creative producers, and animators. Traditional arts, which we have defined as the work that's rooted in and reflective of the traditions and or cultural heritage of a community, transmitted through generations such as cultural dance, cultural music, and traditional crafts. Visual arts, of course, which includes installation, illustration, painting, drawing, collage, printmaking, photography, sculpture, video art, or public art. And literary arts, which includes writers, screenwriters, poets, and graphic novelists. Also, some of the performing disciplines that are eligible are obviously dance, dancers and choreographers, music, so you could be a singer, musician, composer, producer, and a DJ. And again, that's DJs who produce their own original work. Oral traditions, culture bearers who preserve or pass on knowledge, art, or ideas through speech or song, and that may include folk tales, ballads, chants, prose, or verses, and storytelling. Social practice. Social practice engages people and communities in debate, collaboration, or social interaction. Artists partner with communities towards community development outcomes. I really caution folks who want to check off the social practice. If your work is really rooted in social justice, that's not specifically social practice. So really take a good look at the definition. Usually, if you're doing social practice, you know you're doing social practice. But any other work that you may do in communities, I would probably stick to your original discipline for that. Theater would include actors, directors, playwrights, costume designers, set designers, sound and lighting designers. Performance art, which would include artists who create work through actions performed by the artist or other participants. And finally, interdisciplinary arts, which are works involving more than one artistic discipline and or cultural practice. You can choose up to 2 disciplines when you submit the application. There is no advantage for you doing this. You don't have to do this. So I would say, unless you really truly feel your work is rooted in more than one discipline and your work samples will include more than one discipline, I would stick to your primary discipline for that. So those are all the folks who are eligible. So who would be ineligible to apply? Obviously, artists who do not live in the city. Arts administrators are ineligible to apply unless obviously you're an arts administrator who also has an artistic practice, but you would not apply as an administrator. Commercial vendors or merchants. We've gotten a number of inquiries from folks who say, my business is such, do I qualify? And I always go back and say, your business is not eligible if you are an artist who creates the work. For example, you have a crafts business and you are a crafts person, you're eligible for the work that you create, but not the work that you sell on behalf of others. Folks working in cosmetology, culinary arts, architecture, interior design, or landscaping are not eligible to apply. Radio DJs. So again, this is different from DJs who create their own work in the music field. So radio personalities, TV personalities, journalists are not eligible for this fellowship. Also event planners and folks who are involved in the wellness or fitness arena. So unfortunately, those are all ineligible for this particular opportunity. So how can the funds be used? Say you are one of the 200 applicants who are selected. You can use these funds for anything that supports your work as an artist or culture bearer. And that would include your living expenses because that's part of how you support your work. Obviously, materials or space rental, that supports your art or your craft is always a good use of funds. Um, and if funding is received, we're not going to specifically require receipts or how you use the funding, but we are going to ask you some questions because we really want to understand what the impact is of these fundings. This is really important for us. It's a huge investment on the part of the city, and we want to make sure that we have some good data at the end of the projects. So we will require you to submit 3 survey reports on the impact of the funds, and then one final report at the end of the grant. And we take these survey reports really seriously. They should be very easy to fill out. But if folks, for some reason, don't fill out the survey reports, that could cause a loss of the rest of the funds. So how to apply? As I always say, read the guidelines first. If you haven't read the guidelines and you go straight to the application, you're really doing yourself a disservice. If you learn nothing from today's webinar, I'm just going to send you all to the guidelines and ask you to sit down and read them with other folks, other artists who might be applying, talk about them, see if you have any questions, what you understand, what you don't understand, because that's really going to be your best bet moving forward. Attend any community meetings. You're all doing a wonderful thing today by showing up and just attending this orientation webinar, but we're going to have other opportunities in the community where you'll have a chance to ask questions, and I'll talk to you a little bit more later about some other areas of support. We recommend that you prepare all your materials in advance, which includes writing your narrative in advance, gathering up your work samples. Don't wait till the application is open and then see, oh, I'm not sure I have any video of my work that I want to present, or I don't like the images that I might have on file and I need to create new ones. Be working on that now. I mean, obviously the application is going to open really soon, but you have a chance to focus on that and put your best foot forward. When it is open, and it will be announced on our website, you'll go to the grant application, and it's a new grant portal for us. They'll be managing this grant, and they're called Aid Kit. And here is the link, and obviously we'll share that on our website as well. Follow the instructions carefully. It's pretty straightforward. But if you have questions or something seems difficult or something's not working for you, ask for help as soon as you can. The best method is just to ask right away. And what I tell everybody, and I'm not sure that everybody pays attention, is don't wait until the last day to apply. Things could go wrong. And once the application is scheduled to close, there will not be any other opportunities to submit. So if you at least give yourself some days in case you have trouble uploading or you have some kind of question, you'll have a chance to ask those questions and get your problem solved. So how will the awards be made? You're submitting an application. You're one of many hundreds of artists who are submitting. So who's going to make the decision? So first of all, the staff is going to review all of the applications for very basic eligibility. And by that, I mean, we're not going to look at the answers to your questions. We are going to look at your basic eligibility requirements, the IDs you provided, the proof of residence that you provide, anything like that that will make sure that you truly are eligible for this grant, we review. And once you pass that first hurdle of eligibility, then all applicants will be assigned to a team of panel reviewers, and we're going to have multiple panel review teams. The assignments will try to consider artistic discipline, but as you see, there are a lot of artistic disciplines, so it's unlikely that we'll have a panel that will just focus on one very narrow discipline, but we will always try to include folks who have experience in that area, expertise. We are looking at panelists who cover a range of disciplines right now. All of your application will be scored, and we'll talk a little bit about that and the criteria. So you're going to be scored based on your particular strengths in that criteria. And the highest scoring applications from the panels will go to a randomized phase, which means that At a certain point, it's going to become a random selection lottery, however you want to look at it, but it'll be a randomized tool that will select 200 awardees to make sure that, we allot for small discrepancies and that, the folks who are at the top of the panel selection will all have an equal chance to get an award. So the scoring criteria. I'm going to go through this part a little bit quickly, and then I'm going to go through each of them in detail. First is commitment to practice, and that'll be dedication of time and resources to your work, professional development, and a clear vision for professional growth. Artistic merit is another criteria. So obviously we're going to be looking at your level of technical skill, your care of execution, your work samples, that they show strength and or growth, how they contribute to the vibrancy of your discipline or of your cultural tradition. And finally, we'll be looking at public benefit because we are a public institution. We always care about this. What is your level of local community engagement? Are you engaging in issues rooted in BIPOC experience or other marginalized individuals? And do you contribute to the creative cultural landscape here in Sacramento? Okay, so first I'm going to go through this a little bit more carefully. The commitment to practice. This section is meant to establish that you're an artist who's serious about making work, improving your skills, learning and or teaching others, and putting in time and resources into your art. The way that you're going to show this is through the questions you're going to answer in this section. So how do you demonstrate dedication of time and resources towards the development of your art? I'm going to give you some examples, which doesn't necessarily mean that they're true for you, but this will just maybe get you thinking. Have you invested your own funds into specific materials or equipment that supports your work? Do you take classes on an ongoing basis, or have you taken classes? Do you teach classes to others and share your work? If there's a master artist in your discipline that you've studied with, tell us about that. Do you have to travel to another place in order to learn more in your discipline? Have you pursued apprenticeships? Have you applied for and or taken part in residencies? And then finally, what is your long-term vision for professional growth? This answer is going to be different depending on where you are in your career. Might be different for someone who's really early in their career versus someone who's later in their career. But then do you have a clear picture of where you want to take your work and how you're going to get there? The goal here is to make your answer personal to you so that the panel better understands your path. I'll say this for this section and for all sections, don't write generic answers. These panels are going to be looking at a lot of applicants and they want to see what's true for you. They want to see what stands out. So while it's tempting to use, certain AI programs to answer questions or whatever that might be, really stick to personal stories and what really resonates for you because it's going to feel unique to the panel. The next one is devoted to artistic merit. The panel is going to be looking to see if your work samples show your technical ability and the care you take in making and presenting your work. Your work samples should also show a coherence of style over time. In other words, if you submit 10 photos of your work and each photo demonstrates a very different style or theme or medium, and if the samples are uneven in technique, that's going to be confusing to the panel. You want to show some consistency. You can obviously show a range of work, but make sure that they don't feel like it's all over the map because they really want to focus on what you're putting forward right now. We'll also ask you questions about your artistic philosophy, or just basically why you make what you do. Who influences you or who has influenced you? What techniques do you use that are important to you or the art form, and why? What are the traditions that you bring to your work? Or what materials do you most often work with? Ideally, there should be a strong connection to what you say about your work and what you show in your work samples. For example, if you talk a lot about your photography technique, but then you submit samples of paintings, this may weaken your application. So make sure that what you show in your artistic samples really resonates with what you said about your work. Um, and, we want to see that your work and the body of your work reflects a contribution to obviously the vibrancy of that artistic discipline. Now, the last section is public benefit. We're going to ask how your work either engages the public or how you may use it to explore themes of interest to the public. We're going to ask how you ensure the public is exposed to your work. For a performing artist, this part might seem easier. You can talk about the audiences and venues you bring your work to. If you're a visual artist, you could talk about gallery shows or displaying works in local cafes and businesses or community events. Or you can also talk about the themes that your work expresses and how they're valuable to a local audience. Again, I'm going to reiterate, this is very personal. We can't tell you how to do this, but it's a chance for you to talk about how your work is part of a wider conversation with the community. Because they're public funds, we ideally are looking towards folks whose work is contributing to the vibrancy of Sacramento and its people. So, are there opportunities for community engagement or public involvement? Are you a teaching artist in our schools, community centers, or public spaces? Do you present your work in the community and make it available for wide and diverse audiences? Do you do public readings, workshops, free events? Or maybe you explore issues that are important, such as health, transportation, climate change, and social justice. Is your work rooted in and/or does it center the experience of BIPOC, LGBTQIA+, and other people with disabilities, other marginalized communities? If so, tell us about it. Do you ensure your work is accessible to a wide audience? So, for example, you may be a symphonic musician who makes work for a symphony orchestra, but you may also do performances in the park or in a senior center. Tell us about that. And again, does your work contribute to the vitality and the diversity of the city? Now, remember, not every artist will be able to express the highest level in every category. And that's why we've got so many different ways to express your special qualities. If you're a fantastic teacher, let us know. But again, remember that I always want to be careful because we love to have teaching artists apply. But remember, you're going to focus on your artwork. So the public benefit section is your opportunity to maybe talk about your work in the schools or the community. But again, put forward your work as an artist rather than as a teacher. If you spend most of your time making free work in the community, let us know. If you feel like you've reached a high level of artistic expertise, tell us how and show it. And if your work has been deeply rooted in environmental issues, health, justice, or something else, tell us and show us. So that's my way of saying that, these are a lot of different categories we're asking you to talk about. And I just want to reiterate, not everybody, or very few people are going to necessarily have the highest ability to score in every single one of these categories. But we're trying to create enough questions and enough different categories and a relative parity in the scoring so that people will have an opportunity to shine in what they do best and for the panel to react positively to your work. I'll talk a tiny bit about work samples. They're really important, so take some care in deciding which work samples you want to include. You can include digital images for any discipline, but no more than 10 JPEGs or PNGs. So if you submit like one page and it's got 20 JPEGs on it, we're really going to ask the panel only to look at the first 10. So we encourage you not to submit more than 10. Audio up to 5 minutes. A video link, but it must be a YouTube video only, and it needs to be a link so we don't accept uploaded video. And it should only be 5 minutes. So if the video is longer than 5 minutes, you need to specifically say where to cue the video, and the panel will not look at more than 5 minutes. If your work is text-based, you can submit up to 10 pages of text. And you can also submit an optional 1-page letter of support or a page of testimonials. That's optional. You don't have to. If you feel that that's supportive of your type of work, feel free to do it. But make sure that that letter is dated and signed by the person who is sending it. And if it's from an organization, it should be on organization letterhead. If it's just a personal letter, we need at least a signature and a date on that letter. And it should really, again, just reinforce your application and talk about what it is that is, important about your work. We've had people submit letters of support in the past that just were, a Word document with no signature. And, we can't really determine that that is a real letter of support. So again, it must be signed. I'm going to talk a little bit about the documentation you need, because you're going to have these things ready when you're beginning to submit. These will be the first things that you're going to be asked to upload. So first of all, we need a government issued ID that includes your full name, your date of birth, and a photo of you. It needs to be currently valid or expired no more than within the last 2 years. It can be many different types of ID. It can be a driver's license, a passport, a country issued ID, a government ID, foreign or US, a state issued ID, a permanent resident card, a matricula consular card, an Instituto Federal Electoral, or a military ID. So any of those types of IDs. And also proof of residency. This is we've had some questions around this, but it's going to have to be a piece of mail, or something similar. It needs to have your name, the address that you're applying from, and it has to be issued within the last 60 days. Acceptable forms of proof of residency are utility bills, income information. So it could be a payroll record. It could be a rental agreement that's not expired, or any other kind of, professional document such as that, or some kind of third-party business mail. It can't just be, I don't know, a letter from a friend, or it really needs to be, or a solicitation in the mail. It needs to be a real piece of business mail. If you're running up with any questions about this, if you feel like you don't have anything, you can feel free to contact us. We're going to give you the contact information soon. And we could talk through some of the types of reasonable proof of residencies, but that really is one of the important things. And lastly, when you apply, you're going to have to choose, even before you are awarded a grant, or even if you're not awarded a grant, how you want to get your payment. It needs to be done at the time of application, and it can't be changed. So there are only 3 types of ways to get paid. You can have payment made direct deposit into a bank account. You can have a debit card mailed to you, and it would be uploaded with the amount every month. Or you could use a virtual debit card. You could choose any of these. If you're choosing direct deposit, excuse me, you must have your bank account information on hand, and the account must be in your name. So again, if that's what you want to choose, just make sure you've got your bank account information, and there will be instructions on how to access that. Okay, so I mentioned that there are ways to get help. So first of all, I will tell you all to go to our website for up-to-date information. Here's the very long website address, but if you go to cityofsacramento.gov and you put in Creative Growth Fellowship, you're going to be taken right to the page. It's going to have frequently asked questions. It's going to have updated information. That's your one-stop shop for everything related to this grant. So please visit the website. Attend any online workshops and webinars. You've attended this one, so that's a great start. We will try to schedule a Q&A section within the next few weeks, but there may be other opportunities, and I'll talk a little bit about that, to attend other webinars in the community. Request any application support as available. Always start out with emailing us, and we can see how we can help. Attend any community meetings. We are spreading wide out into the community. So there are opportunities for community meetings, maybe in your neighborhood or for particular cultural communities. So again, check the website for the most updated info. You can request translated materials or interpreters for community events. Excuse me. At this time, the only language that we have the application translated in is in Spanish, and the application and guidelines are both in Spanish. We have some basic information in many different languages, so check social media or check the website for that information. But other than that, everything is in English, and the application must be completed in English because we don't have the ability to translate back. And there's the email address that I encourage everybody to write into if you want information or you have questions. That's the best email address to use because there are multiple people monitoring that email address, and that's going to be a place that you're going to get the quickest and best answers to your questions. I did talk about additional support, and we're really happy to offer support from two organizations in the community who have contracted with the city of Sacramento to help us not only get the word out, but to help people, figure out the application, the guidelines. If they're having trouble submitting, they're going to provide some support. One is Indie Things Possible, and Indie Things Possible is an organization that supports emerging artists, culture bearers, and creatives in urban music spaces rooted in BIPOC cultural traditions, including African American, Latino, and artists from low-income communities. So they'll be working with folks. And Everyday Impact Consulting, and they specifically provide support to Sacramento's Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. So we have information on our website about any online support that they're providing, any community meetings that they're doing. So that just helps us magnify the work that we do and get it out to a wider audience. So that's it for today's webinar. Thank you for coming. Again, my apologies for the delay in this webinar. Just really happy to be able to get through it today, and look forward to talking to you all and seeing more applications come in. So thanks very much.